Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm your host, Saucy McFoodlefist, and in the last one, well, Hana went crazy, and Isabella was found dead, possibly murdered, possibly was the ghost of the mansion who got her. We're really not sure, but let's get started on the new episode, shall we? Without another word, Ash garners the papers littering the ground, ducks under the perimeter tape, and walks away without so much as a backwards glance. Doesn't even remember the photos that are still in my hand. In hindsight, I could follow him. I should follow him. Return these to him, apologize, and maybe attempt at a decent conversation without butting our heads or getting into a trivial squabble over this, of all things. But he's right, damn it. He's right in that we're the only two people going to get through this. We're not the only two people going to get through this. And right now, Rebecca has to bear losing a friend all on her own. What should I do? Who should I be with? I'm gonna comfort Rebecca. Apologies can wait. At the moment, Rebecca needs someone by her side. When I find her again, the officers who took her statement are long gone. She has not moved an inch from her seat, and the paramedics have offered her. And a distant look has taken over her face. The usual fierceness in her gaze is missing, like a fire that has flickered out of existence. There are no tears, just hollowness and sorrow. She offers me a weak smile when she sees me approach, but nothing else other than that. I try to say something, my mouth opening and closing in hesitation, finding words that will hopefully offer her the least bit of comfort, if not sympathy. But all of them falls flat in the face of her own grief. The only thing I can give her is company, to sit by her side and help her bear this as much as I can, as I lend a hand. Around us, the crowd slowly begins to thin out. Mostly already have lost interest in the commotion that entails the discovery of a crime scene. A few do linger, just reporters finding things up for the news and waiting for some final words from authorities. If this incident is not yet all over the news this morning, it will be soon.
If she were here, she'd probably be scared out of her wits by now.
The words choke in her throat, her mouth closing off at least at the last one as if I stop. The words choke in her mouth. The words choke in her throat, her mouth closing off at the one last, as if to stop a sob from escaping her. Sorry about that. I don't need to ask her who her is.
She'll likely be out of here faster than you can say ghost to her. Probably rent a new apartment on the other side of the city as soon as possible.
She would. She never did like it here.
Did she say that?
No, not directly. Never directly. She'll complain about me being bossy or Ash being annoying, but she would never say a word about that. The rent here is cheap. She prefers it that way. It just means she'll be able to send more home. Personal comforts be damned. For her family. Always for her family.
Rebecca draws in a breath, long and shaky. Her voice falters for a brief second.
They always came first for her. She's, 26? She doesn't even know how to take care of herself. It's impossible not to worry, you know? And she's always like that, and...
She clenches her eyes shut and heaves in, her shoulders shaking with heavy, silent sobs. As tears begin to slide down her cheeks, it hits me that I've never seen her cry like this before. Always the strong, reliable one, ever the proud, fiery woman. Yet she's none of those things as I draw her in a wrap around my arms around her shoulders. She's simply another woman who has lost someone.
I don't really know what to say. Never been good with this, but I'm here, Rebecca.
Minutes pass before the rest of her cries subside, and by the time her grief has temporarily eased, my shoulders already damp with her tears. She offers me an apologetic smile as she pulls away, which I return in kind.
I didn't mean for you to see me like that. It's just that I was with her on the phone yesterday. Before this, we had a fight. If I had known that would be the last time, I don't know. Maybe I should have been more careful with my words.
Hey, it's okay. You don't have to say anything now. And it's not your fault. Never your fault. Understood?
No, Zachary, I was just talking to her. She was alive, and I shouted at her. I should have at least heard her out, given her the chance. She was so worried about everyone that something might happen to us.
Suddenly, she trails off. The rest of what she's saying becomes lost in her tongue. Her eyes are wide when she looks back at me. One trembling hand cups over her mouth, and the other reaches out in the grip of my arm. Out to the grip of my arm with strength I had not known she possesses until now.
Zach, she was warning me. She said we might be in danger. Remember Rose Cooper? Her co-worker on the news? You've heard it, right? She was saying something about her and the letter she got from that mansion.
Whoa, wait there, Rebecca. That's a huge jump in logic right there. And a little bit too much to take in at once, frankly.
I know that. If nothing happened, I wouldn't have given it much thought. But as it is, what if she was right all along? What if that letter she found really has something to do with this? The same thing was written in her room with her own blood
And nothing. I expected to hear a better argument from you, Rebecca.
We look up to find Ashton marching towards us, his strides quick and indecisive. The expression on his face, however, there are really no other words for it. He looks pissed as hell. As if he is the kind of person I'd wager good money that the next one who annoys him will end up injured in some capacity.
And before you ask, the stupid letter's with forensics now, along with the other evidence. Don't waste your time looking for it. The whole case is a train wreck as it is.
What would you have me do then? We don't know who did this. Whoever or whatever murdered our friend is still out there.
You think I don't know that? I'll get him, I promise. I'll get him, put him behind bars, and make him pay. But please don't go around playing cop. We aren't playing a children's game.
I have no intention to. Don't you think we also want the same thing as badly as you do?
His mouth opens, poised to say something, but wavers in the end. He averts his eyes. Maybe it's just me. For a fleeting second, something close to regret flickers in them.
You don't know the half of it.
What on earth do you mean by...
All right, guys. That's enough. Proper time and place, remember? We ain't getting anywhere like this.
Sorry, you two. I think I need some air. I'll step out for a while.
Just forget I mentioned anything, Zachary. It's probably the exhaustion talking. She's already walking away before the two of us can react. Although with how our previous exchange went, I highly doubt chasing after her will do us both good. An awkward second stretch An awkward second stretches out between Ash and I until I remember that the photographs are still with me. They continue to weigh more than the actuality than they actually do in my hands. I try not to look at them when I hand them back to him. Once is enough.
You left this with me back there.
Recognition slips across his face before he walks over and takes them off my hands without so much as a thanks. Neither of us speak while he clips all of it to the back of his file. What else is there to talk about? And a jest will be too inappropriate given the gravity of the situation. An apology right now, despite my intent when I sought him out, will be too early, too easy, too hasty. Not with our minds still reeling from the news. Not with all of us still finding ways to cope with our own grief. And this is how he does it, with feigned indifference and an air of aloof detachment. I can't find fault in him for that.
What's next after this, Ash?
Can't say. But make sure you stay far away from the rights. We've got enough problems as it is. I don't need another one adding more to it.
Who? Wait, brakes, Ash, brakes. What about those things on the wall? Maybe she's right. Maybe it has something to do with what she's been telling us all this time. You saw the contents of the paper. What if it's...
Don't go thinking that the stupid letter is related or even a clue. This has more to it than some curse, damn it. I should have paid more attention. If I knew this would lead to this, I would have... I have to go. I'll leave Rebecca to you.
Yet, as I watch him walk away, a different kind of worry weaves itself into me. Ash can handle himself. He's proven that time and again. But the way he carries himself at the moment, this frustration, perhaps even anger, now seeping into his every word. Years ago, early in our acquaintance, he said keeping a cool head is a priority in his line of work. Letting things get too personal should be the last thing that should happen in any case he's handling. I believed him then. Now, with everything as they are, I hope he'd remember those words for himself. Although it's small and begs a little cleaning and repair, it is, at the end of the day, the closest thing I have to respite. Sure, my sister would have a thing or two to say about the mess every time she visits, but it's still home to me. A mild drift sweeps into my room as I close the door behind me, slightly disturbing the papers on the nearby fridge. Most of them schedules, lists, and tasks for the next few days. Something to keep me busy while I sort myself out. And now with what happened to Isabella, something to temporarily take my mind off things. A lone note flutters by my feet, the letters on the surface glaring at me with mute intensity. Ermengarde Mansion, H. Wright, 11 a.m. After Ashton's warning, they all hold a different meaning now. The next 2 days rush by in a blur, although leaving a collective mess of work suddenly piling up in unexpected acquaintances. Or friends. Depending on how you look at it, really. Either way, I'm stuck developing these photos at 3 in the morning to reach a deadline by an overeager art director. Don't get me wrong, Julius is good, has a vision, and knows what he wants, but damn, he can be too enthusiastic sometimes.
Doesn't matter when you couldn't sleep anyway.
There's nothing new in it, of course. After years of working as a freelance photographer, it's simply something I've grown used to. Get to know people, build a client base, do good work, and cash in on some late hours if need be. Rinse and repeat. It certainly takes a while to get some footing on the field, but it's kind of the thing that pays off in the long run as long as you keep at it. Given enough time, you might end up with big names on your client list. names like the Wrights in particular. I never did pay much attention to them, but it's virtually impossible not to hear about them when the local news channel or paper has something to say on their name. A party here, an acquisition there. Sometimes it's a new business venture, other times it's everyday gossip that typically follows popular people like them. Not in a million years did I ever imagine I would end up working for such a high-profile couple. And between that and the fuss that comes with it, it leaves me no time to ponder over whatever happened to Isabella and or why Ash is so adamant we keep away from the pair.
They do seem like the good folk, though, despite the whole fame thing.
Sure, there was a rumor running around years ago about them being involved in some business scandal. But just like every gossip blown out of proportion by the media, nothing comes of it, and eventually it simply died down. Much is definitely left to be said for the husband, but I doubt a woman like Miss Wright would pick him up if he doesn't have any good points at all. Ms. Wright, Hannah herself, though, she ain't particularly bad in the way the press makes her out to be. A bit too forward for a married man, but not as bad as what's on the tabloids. Not that I ever did read those. Ashton would give me flack just for staring at one. Rubbish, he called them once. I think he's just pissed because they often put the local police in a bad light. Although with a life as public as the Wrights, no wonder it's the woman who often gets the crappy end of the stick. I can't help but feel sorry for her. She's a real nice person when given the chance. Heck, she might have ended up friends with Rebecca and Isabella too, if they weren't living worlds apart. Probably. The beep quickly pulls me back before my thoughts travel any further. In one practice motion, I carefully place the wet print I'm holding on a drawing rack and amble over my makeshift darkroom to get the last photos from the water bath. Inside the converted broom closet, the film processor lets out another soft clack before going on and its standby mode. At its mouth, a lone photograph sits on the tray, barely visible with the lack of light. It's the last one tonight for the set of Mrs. Wright's request. I don't usually make this a habit, giving away stuff, that is. It's bad for business, no matter how well-intentioned or generous you are. This exception, however, she was nice enough to ask, after all, and was a good companion up until this awkward turn our little chit-chat has taken. Even if she didn't ask, I would have given her a few prints just for the hell of it. Miss Wright ain't such a bad subject matter to begin with. And maybe it's just me, but for someone who has everything at the palm of her hands, all the money in the world, a loving husband, and a plenty big mansion to call home, she's lonely. She doesn't just appear like it. It shows in the tone of her voice, how she moves, and most certainly in her smiles. Always hidden behind the glamour for the world to never see. Sometimes for people like her, small things like these help. A little reminder that the world can be kind too. Water drips from the paper as I blindly pick it up and gently lay it on another tray holding a decent amount of photo flow. A few seconds later, the solution is all it needs before it's ready for drying. No good rushing in the last one, even if my body's already screaming for some decent snooze. My hand fumbles for the light switch, moving towards it with familiarity, while I fish for a squeegee among the mess of tools on a drawer with the other. The bulb flickers twice, before its glow settles and casts a soft light in the tiny space. When I glance down, squeegee in my hand, ready to finish the process, and finally call it a night,
What on earth?
her head is gone. Blurred and distorted beyond recognition, rather. The area is completely smudged over, no trace of the same sweet smile the good woman carried in all her previous prints.
Damn, that was too careless.
A common mistake to make, of course, if one is negligent enough to pick a newly processed photo in the dark, like I apparently did. It has happened before, loads of times actually. But I still can't help but feel a small pang of frustration over one mistake a newbie would likely make. With a sigh, I reach up for a switch again, intending to develop a new one from scratch.
It could pass off for one of those supernatural pictures they show on TV, though.
A memory clicks, one cursory thought in the sea of many, and a short, distinct second from the days before. A glimpse is all I got, but it's not enough to burn the image into my mind. There was a shadow. No. But how far as her flesh alone has become, it's impossible to tell at first glance. The skin itself has already taken a sickly color, rotten in most parts, blood dripping from every open gash and lesion in her body. Bony hands grip Mrs. Wright's neck like a noose, staining the skin underneath her vibrant shade of scarlet. Nothing but malice fills the gleam in her eyes.
Zachary?
Not for me, but for Mrs. Wright.
Zach? Is something the matter?
Oh, no, there's nothing wrong. I just remembered something, that's all. Let's get back to the pictures. Can you move a bit more to the left, yeah?
The memory alone is enough to make me retch. I brushed it off then. A trick of the eye, I told myself, a product of the heat. The weather has been unexpectedly warm lately, so it shouldn't be too surprising for such things to happen. And while blaming this on the usual fatigue, an overworked brain, the weather, or an amateur error on my part is far more convenient. It makes a whole lot of sense than when the small voice inside my head whispers. The same tiny voice that only makes itself known when something's afoul. The same one that lent a curious ear to Isabella's worries about the mansion. And with each second I spend staring at this photograph, the murmurs in my head only grow louder against my ears. Someone has to know. Show the photos to Hannah, show the photos to Zach, to Ash. I'm gonna show the photos to Hannah. I don't have any explanation for what I saw yesterday yet, but when you've been there, seen something enough to raise the hairs of the back of your neck or leave you wanting to flee or hide, finding a more solid proof of a person's smudged face on a photo is the least of my concerns. Ashton will undoubtedly give me flack for saying that, or even considering Isabella's words and those silly tales about the place. The guy is a skeptic through and through. I agree. I'll take more than my account for him to even give me this as a single thought. However, more than his opinion is Ms. Wright's I'm concerned about. Surely she must have felt something, if those shows on TV are to be believed. A touch of coldness in her neck, or maybe the feeling of being watched. That's what often happens, ain't it? Outside, the sun is yet to rise. I've still got a few hours before dawn. Good enough time to mull over about how I'll go about warning her. Plenty of space to check out if I'll get the same results if I redo the process again. The film processor hums back to life at my touch. The light switch gives off the small click, and darkness embraces the small closet yet again.
Somehow those urban legends don't sound so silly now.
Alright, we are going to end the episode off here. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.